Linus likes Droog beetle pie. Giorgio starts a haiku convention. And the USS Discovery visits the Trill Homeworld. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
We've got a very special guest with us today, Mr. Rex A. Wood, associate producer.
Good afternoon.
And my name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we are doing a review of Discovery Season 3, Episode 4, Forget Me Not, directed by the one and only Hanel Culpepper. Sorry, no, I looked and I was like, there was an autocorrect in my notes and it said Handel Culpepper. I was like, wait, Handel? No, it's Hanel. Anyway, I guess I should have
Handel.
Okay. Sorry, that was my autocorrect.
The one and only.
Sorry, Handel.
Wait for it.
Wait for it. Drum roll, please. No, yeah. Hanel Culpepper, who has directed a bunch of episodes. Really cool. Really awesome. So, actually, there are a lot of autocorrects in my notes. First thing I see is Dumber. Dumber, but I think that's an autocorrect for Culber. I need to check these. Anyway, how you guys doing today?
I am fine.
Good. Yeah.
Real good.
Awesome. Well, this was quite an episode. Rex, do you remember the episode in Deep Space Nine or Cirroc when we just reviewed it like last season where they visit the Trill Homeworld and Dax is like swimming through that milky water, but I don't remember what the episode was called. Do you guys remember?
Oh, I can't think either. I'm sorry. Right now, can't bring it up to the memory.
Yes. Let me see if I can check real quick. But anyway, I was really excited that they were visiting the Trill Homeworld, and they went right back to it.
Yep, absolutely. And it's Ryan's trying to find that episode right now.
I am, yeah. I'm just looking real quick at our titles.
It was really nice.
Go ahead. that was a throwback theme. This was basically a shout out to DS9 and that particular episode because they do, they go right back to that pool of water where the Trill goes. They actually made it a little bit more jazzy with the electricity waves inside of it, and the little what was that little robot kind of ball thing that they placed in it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that one out because it was like it looked like a helmet to me to begin with. When they first stuck it in there, I thought she was going to put something over her head, and I was like, that looks like a helmet, but then it didn't happen. So it was some kind of monitoring device, I think, for the pool. That it was monitoring what was going on there, and if something was going to happen, that's why we see a crack later. Because of that reason, I think. And I think it was
designed by Roomba. It actually cleans.
It was cleaning the pool. It was a pool. Yeah, I think it was it.
I think it was called the Mintha orb, and it said it'll track her isoboramine levels.
Yeah.
Now, they pronounced it Mintha, but I like to put the closed captioning on just in case I missed something, and it was spelled Minta, MYNH''TA, but it was pronounced Mintha, so who knows? But that's what it was called.
Mintha orb.
Yeah, and it was checking her isoboramine levels, of course.
Okay.
But it was really cool, and if you'll recall, Cirroc, I mean, how close was it? Because we just reviewed that episode just maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and
it wasn't long ago.
Yeah, it was very similar.
The other thing that I thought was interesting because in that episode there was a Trill that was kind of the expert on the cave.
Yeah.
And he was the guide that was showing her. And in this episode, we kind of had the similar thing with the expert guide kind of taking her to the caves, So it almost was like a slight plagiarism. I was seeing a little bit of a recycling there, but they definitely made it better because they showed us the inside of the pool.
Yeah,
we never got to really go into the depths of the inside of what's going on underneath that water.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of Terry when I was watching that scene. I was thinking, I wonder if Terry's watching this and going like, hey, how come I didn't get to do that? That looks really fun. I want to do something like. All I did was swim around in soy milk, and now and these guys get to do all this cool stuff.
Exactly, and then then they of course had the threads that went up to her fingers. Once she got down, once they got down in the pool and kind of what I would consider like the consciousness of everything, they had the threads that came up into her fingers. And that's something that we haven't seen before. We haven't seen the inner workings of that world. We were only able, like Brian said, we were able to just see the milky water that they swam around in. We didn't really get to see what else happens there. So I think they did very well with kind of explaining more of what goes on and the experience while they're in that pool. I thought that was really, really a good part of it. How she was able to find out her past lives, there and how that all came to her. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there were aspects of that, Rex, that I would agree with you. I thought was really, it was interesting to see the inner workings of that water in that pool. But I like the visual effects of the lighting, the lights, the strands, those little strands that were coming up on her and touching her fingers. But I thought it was almost like movie quality as far as the visual effects in that moment. I was like, wow, this is. I think of kind of the older movies that we used to watch, these Close Encounter and all these kinds of movies.
Yep.
And it has all of that in it. I mean, even a little bit of Avatar, on a smaller scale, smaller budget scale, but it was just like it was as good. I mean, the special effects wise, it was pretty believable.
I don't think we ever saw Dax's eyes turn completely white though. No. Like they did. They both turned completely white when they were pulled down into the pool itself. So that was something that was a little different too.
They did take a lot of liberties. Discovery does take a lot of liberties in reimagining things. And I was concerned that the Trill were going to look different than how we remember them.
Yeah.
Just like the Klingons look different. Just like the Andorians look different. Just like the Tellarites look different. I was like, oh boy, prepare yourself for an alien that's not just a henna tattoo like this. Yeah. And I know, but of course they didn't. They stuck to what Trill looked like. And I know right now there's some Star Trek fans that are going like, excuse me, but the Trill already changed once. In Next Generation, the first time we see them, they were a different race with a thing on their forehead like every other alien. So it was already changed. So you can't say, and that's true. But it was still nice. I'm still glad that
somebody was counting spots. There was somebody out there counting spots. And go, man, there's about 12 more spots than there should be.
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Something's not right there.
Oh, the episode where we visit the homeworld, I believe it's Equilibrium.
Oh, yep.
I think that's what it was called.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. So the one thing that I can tell you I was not happy with.
Oh boy, here we go. This
I told you I was.
Rex is like, enough of all this kiss ass stuff. I want to get to the nitty gritty.
Well, I wasn't happy with their writer's term of a symbiote called a squid. I really had problems with that. I felt like that was kind of downgrading the symbiotes a little bit. And by calling them squids, I think it was just a tiny bit disrespectful. I think they should have stayed with symbiotes. We knew they were symbiotes. It was just that term of squid just came off to me really wrong how many times they corrected it once, but then they went back to it several times. And I think that if they had gone to the Trill planet and she had called it a squid, I think they would just went ahead, just leave now. I don't even think they would have got a chance for anything else. I think they would just say, get on your shuttle and go. We don't have squids in our bodies, So that's one thing that I would say that's probably one of the things that I thought the writers were just a tiny bit disrespectful to the symbiotes.
What's funny about that is I had a problem with that term as well, but for a totally different reason.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, I disrespect them. I don't care. For me, because I call them slugs or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, same thing. But for me, the problem I had with it was I was like, it doesn't look anything like a squid. Like squids have what? They have eight tentacles, right?
Yeah.
And octopi have 7, I think.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look. I was like, why would anybody call it a squid? It might as well call it a pickaxe, or or a pillow. I don't know. Like, I was just more like, what? It doesn't look like a squid. Why are you calling it that?
Yeah.
But that's just me nitpicking.
It just seems like they were searching for something at that point, and you're right. A squid does not look like the symbiote at all.
Call it a slug, or a pupa, or a grub, or a worm.
Yeah, and just to highlight your point, Rex, the character, her name Adira, right? She was the one referring to it as a squid, right?
Yeah. She started it, and then it just kind of kept going that way.
Yeah, and I guess the problem that I can have to agree with you on, and the problem I would have with that, is that she wouldn't be so cavalier or disrespectful about something that is inside of herself, especially something that's joined with her. I mean, in this way that they share memories and they share so many things, right? It seems a little bit too demeaning of the terminology. So I think you're right about that.
Yeah. I think, she didn't have memories yet, but you could tell that she was having the effects, because she knew that, she was already starting to do things and do some of the things that the symbiote would have her do, and the memories of the past people would do. So I just don't think the past people's, anything that she would have would put her into saying something like that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now I had a whole other set of nitpicks, and my whole list is full of them. So,
a set of them, and he's got a list.
That's funny, because I had a few nitpicks. Like, I feel like this episode had a lot of things I loved, and a lot of things where I was like, what? So, Cirroc, why don't you hit us with a couple?
Yeah.
Well,
make it a compliment sandwich. Say, this is what I liked, and this is what I didn't like, but this is also what I liked.
Well, I did like the fact they were going to visit the Trill Homeworld, and I wanted to see it. So that is like, okay, great. Check mark. I want to see it. We're going to go down. We're going to meet the people. We're going to revisit that experience and get also like that little flashback to Dax and what she's done for DS9. So I was happy about that. The thing that bothered me, and this was my major nitpick in that entire sequence of the scene, was the fact that Burnham was the one that was asked to go into the pool when all the other elders were there.
Right, they were all there,
and it's like y'all know what to do. This is y'all thing. This is what you guys do. Why would you send the rookie who's never been in there, who doesn't have anything to do with with the symbiote? Why would you send her in there to go? Hey, go tell her how to get out of the pool.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Like they were like, "Whoa, no human could ever have a symbiont in her body." Yeah. But since she's in the water, well, let's get another. Everybody, just hop in. The water's great.
Yeah, but that's right. You can go hop into the water. I was half expecting something to happen, like she would get in there. It would change a different color. Something would change to the fact that that a human was getting in where humans had never been before.
Yeah.
Didn't make any sense to me. That I would agree with you. Absolutely no sense.
Sounds like you're channeling some Shatner, where no man has gone before.
That's right.
No human. It's like the lifeguard telling you to go save somebody. You're the lifeguard.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Me? She should have said that. I think her next line should have been, me? You want me to go in there? You guys go. I'll stay here on the shore. Hold the towel.
Or give a reason why they can't go in. This, two trills can't be in the water at the same time.
Or they just ate. Or they just ate and they still have to wait a few hours before they can go swimming.
I had an egg sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Go in.
Give me 30 minutes.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of
that part was weird to me.
Speaking of eating, I had a very high and low thought with the dinner scene, because I really liked the idea behind the dinner scene. I really liked, everybody around the table. I thought it was really cool, really good opportunity. I was glad that we got to see Linus there. And just all of it was cool. I did think that Detmer acted really strangely. And I know they were doing it on purpose, but like, yeah, she definitely needs some kind of psychological evaluation because she was tweaking out pretty hard. But what did surprise me was, okay, so she has her mental breakdown. Cool, fine. She storms off. Stamets storms off, and Culber goes with him. And like Tilly and somebody else go after Detmer to make sure she's okay. Cool, fine. I get that. I'm all for it, right?
Yep.
Fine, that all makes sense. But what I didn't understand was, why did everybody else then just get up and leave poor Saru? Like, nobody was like, nobody. I mean, if that happened and I was Linus or Bryce or Nilsson, for example, or maybe Nilsson went after Tilly, but if I was one of them and this thing happened, my first thought would be like, okay, well, let's band this back together. Sorry, Saru, that was a mess, but let's get this thing back on track. But instead, they're just like, oh, fuck this place. And they just got up and walked off. I was like, that is so rude. Like, they didn't have a reason to leave. They weren't storming off angrily. They didn't have some stressful situation. They're just like, dude, Saru, your party sucks. Bye.
Exactly. Well, it did kind of remind me of a few of my Thanksgiving dinners that I had when I was a child. It did. Yeah, it did kind of remind me of when I was a child, how, you know, things would happen at the table and somebody would get mad and leave, and then other person would
then everybody just left.
And everybody's gone. And you're just like, I'm sitting there, I'm eating, I don't care. You know? Yeah, it did kind of remind me of their version of a bad Thanksgiving dinner.
Bad Kentucky Thanksgiving dinner. That's what this episode should have been called.
Could have been. You had to change some accents, though.
This episode was a little bit too slow for me.
Oh, okay.
And, it was just like moving a little bit along too slowly. And I'm hoping that we're going to learn something, and I'm hoping that Adira has some secret knowledge about the burn that we haven't been able to learn, and that's why she's around.
Well, we did get to find out at least what her middle name is. It's In Headlights. Cirroc, I love it when you laugh, but it almost looks like you're discussing with yourself laughing. You're like, don't encourage this. Anyway,
I know.
A deer in headlights.
But, you know, what I also think, though, I mean, you were talking about it being slow. Yeah, it had to have some slow, but we got to see the spear interact with the ship. We hadn't seen the computer change like that. So Saru was asking the computer advice about what I should do for my crew, and it's spouting off, well, they need a less lactose diet. They need this kind of thing. That all of a sudden we saw the spear actually morph with the computer system and start showing its personality and what it's doing through Discovery. So I think now we're going to see some things with that spear pop up that I think as the episode went on and they talked about it, it felt like the spear is now going to protect the ship a little bit. And so it's looking out for the members of the crew and the ship itself. Yeah.
Now, what that was, people were speculating that it may be Zora. Zora was introduced in one of the Short Trek episodes with Kraft, I think it was. Yeah. And Zora was kind of like, she had taken over the Discovery ship 1,000 years later, and Discovery was just kind of doing its own thing. And so she was kind of like, you know, a personality for the ship. And this appears to be the creation of Zora, as far as we know. But what I didn't catch was where did that sphere come from? Like, where I didn't really, I may have missed it. Maybe I should have gone back to it, but I didn't see. Did we find out where that came from?
So when he's the thing that I saw was just that it's the data information that was put on there to begin with. Of course, that's why they were leaving, to get the data to the future. But you saw the computer do that. It kind of, the screen changed from blue to red all of a sudden. And it was just for a couple seconds, and then that's where we got the different voice. So that's where I saw the spear interaction come in. If that's what
I'm just wondering how that was like how it was created. That's just kind of how it was introduced, but I'm wondering how it was created. But I guess
I don't know. They didn't really explain, and it was kind of that they just kind of threw it in. You know what I mean? It was kind of like there it was, and not a whole lot of explanation with it. You know, it was kind of like a surprise. And then that was the only time they really talk about it till the end of the show again. You know, somebody comes in and takes over something takes over your computer. I would have thought it may have been a little bit more conversation about it. Of when is it going to pop up again? Did anybody else see it? Was it just Saru that saw it? You know, I mean, that's what I would be thinking more. I think I'd be like a little worried about, you know, is my ship going to start going somewhere else now all of a sudden? You know, because that's what we've seen with things that wind up in the computer. They tend to take the ship somewhere else. So, you know, I don't know.
Nice captain shirt, by the way. Sorry.
Thank you. Little Captain Pike today. Yeah. Nice. Just a little throwback, and then the hope for Strange New Worlds to be good at that point. I also felt like in this episode I felt like I was endeared more to the crew this time, because I got to see what happens and how they progressed and how they took that problem of that dinner, and they all were able to come back and apologize. Now, we didn't get to see what caused them to come back and apologize, the conversations that were held, but they came back and apologized at that point. It also gave me just some insight more into the crew at the end of it when we see the movie. And, you know, who knew that Buster Keaton would come up in a Star Trek episode? Okay. But just when they're doing the movie at the end, how everybody gets together and how humor and everything kind of brings them back into that family situation again. You know, and I really felt like I got more attached to the crew in this episode than I ever have in any of the other ones at this point.
Right. Cirroc, you started to say something?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I just didn't feel that. I didn't feel the attachment so much. I understood what they were trying to do when they were pushing. They started out the episode with, I think Colbert was talking about how everybody needs to adjust, and some people won't talk about their problems.
Yep.
And I think that is a theme that I do believe is noteworthy, because if you don't talk about your problems and you hide and you hold them in, then then these kinds of weird things will happen, like the Thanksgiving dinner scene, right?
You're right. Right.
So it's good to get these conversations out there. But I think the real thing that nobody really is really being able to really address for me is that they've lost all their families. They've all lost their families. They've lost their entire lives, basically. Whatever they knew is gone. And that's a hole I don't see how that's possibly that's not going to be replaced over one argument or hate between two people that are just trying to be cool. That's going to be, it should be the thing that's going to bond them, because they really don't have anything else at this point, right? They don't have phone calls from grandma and their nephews. So this is kind of a big deal for me. I don't see how they get over it that easily.
No.
But and then the pace for me, and once again I have to go by pace. Yeah. Even the scenes between Adira and Gray.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I thought those were really drawn out, and they were trying to tell this really great love story, but I just don't feel like it's the time to tell that love story because we're in a crisis right now with Discovery having just jumped into the future. There's no power source for them to everybody to go into warp. There's no Federation. And so this love story, that's great, but everybody on this crew just lost their family and just lost everything that they know and love.
Oh, absolutely.
So this little love story between Gray and then Adira, I'm like, well, you guys are both new characters that I'm just now being introduced to, and it's hard for me to feel for you when I want to feel for the people that I've already started to have attachments towards. So that was my beef too.
Yeah.
Right. That's when are you ever going to find the right time to do a love story in the middle of a sci-fi thing? It's tough, but I know what you mean. What I really liked about Gray and the more expanded storyline there was when we got to see all of the Trill hosts.
Yeah.
That was one of those things where I was hoping we would. Right there where what Rex is showing in his box. I remember thinking, hey, that'd be really cool if we got to see the other hosts. And then when the thing started to materialize, I was almost kind of pretty excited. I was like, oh shoot, I hope we get to see the host. And then that, for me, that was the best fan service, because that's what I wanted to see. I always wanted to just have them right there, so we see it, and then we understand the character more. We understand the symbiont more. And one of them actually had a Starfleet uniform from Star Trek Picard. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the dude was wearing a Star Trek Picard. Now, of course, I immediately started doing math in my head, which is like, let me see, if there are 5 or 6 of them in total, and Picard was 800 years before where Discovery's taking place right now, then that means each one of those hosts need to live like, what, 8 divided by 6, need 120 to 150 years.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I don't know. But other people are surmising that maybe when the host dies, the Trill frolics around in the milk for 20 or 30 years and waits for the next one. Okay, so maybe there's space in between. So either way, I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to like pause it and just like look at each individual character and learn about them, and I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, I would agree.
And their names are Kasha, Jovar, Medela, Kara, Senna, Gray, and now Adira.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool moment.
There would be more, no? Or is that's just?
Yeah. It was 5 plus Gray. Yeah. So Adira would be the 7th, number 7. Wow. And Dax was presumably number 7, but then I think we found out she was number 8, or Jadzia, I should say, was number 8 when we found out that there was the extra one. And then that would make what's her name? S3E number 9. And so Adira's number 7.
So my question now then becomes, so when you die, you enter into the Trill pool?
No, the symbiont, the slug, the squid itself maybe goes into the pool. We don't know, or maybe some people know, but we don't. That's just what we were guessing when we were kind of doing the math, unless Trills live to be 200 years old.
Get some cleansing time in the pool, just maybe some time to regain your strength. Maybe
it's a waiting room for them.
Yeah, it's a symbiote waiting room. Kind of like Zoom. You're just kind of sitting there waiting on the host to let you in.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we could see Jadzia in that pool.
Sure. Maybe.
Or Dax, maybe. Maybe we could see the Dax things. But I don't know. I mean, do we know how long those things live? I don't know. Because remember, this is 800 years beyond Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
The timeline, the where we are, the time frame that we're seeing is 800 years after Space Nine. So Dax would have to be on like life 20, right? Or which is maybe possible. But I thought that they mentioned before that the symbionts only go to like 7 to 10 hosts or something like that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just something I thought I heard.
Yeah, their room would be getting a little more crowded.
Yeah, everybody in the comments that's listening in, let us know in the comment section, because I know we're making a lot of guesses and some are right and some are wrong, and probably some of them are pulling your hair out going like, dude, obviously the Trill lived to be 200 years old and the symbionts go into 30 hosts and all this stuff, or maybe they never die. I don't know.
I don't know. No.
Cirroc's like,
we'll find out. Guess we'll find out in the chat.
I have no idea.
No.
Okay. So they were called the Sacred Caves of Mccalla. By the way, I don't remember if that was mentioned in the episode Equilibrium, and this was just re-mentioned, or if this was the first time we found out what they're called. I don't know that. I do like that there was a little bit of a feature on Culber this week. You know, it kind of was said a little bit through his eyes. He narrated at the beginning with his medical officer's log. We kind of followed him around. It was a little bit of a feature for him, which I really liked because he's one of my favorite characters. He's definitely in my 3 or 4 favorite characters on the show. So it was nice for him to have more than just a hypo spray and you better get to the med bay kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I think he was playing more of Counselor Troy.
Yeah.
He was playing more Counselor Troy-ish in this episode. Because he was talking to people, getting to like, hey, what's your problem? You know, really kind of doing more psychological doctoring than, you know, actually practicing it in surgical.
You should have made a food reference when describing them, like the counselor on Lower Decks. You should have been like, Detmer, you're being very cantaloupe-y right now. And we'd be like, I know what that means. But yeah, it did make us think, wait a minute, I guess there is no counselor on this ship. And poor Culber and Dr. Pollard they got to play double duty now. That's a good point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, the other thing we got to find out in this is that with Tilly is trying to come up with a new way to do the navigation with the spore drive. So they don't have to use Stamets every time. You know, they started talking about the black matter, the induction with black matter. You know, that he first of all, before they start getting the I'm all warm and fuzzy with each other thing, he's yelling at her and telling her it's basically useless. But later on, you know, they're sitting at the table and she kind of acts like she knows it isn't going to work, but then she goes, and it works. You know, it does work. And so Stamets actually then looks at her and says, you know, this is something that we need to look at. This is something we need to do, you know? So that was kind of something that was kind of thrown in the episode too, all of a sudden, is that maybe they're going to find a new way to operate the spore drive, because with the lithium that's out there, they're going to run out at some point. And how are they going to navigate? So they're thinking this will be an option to using him as the navigator of the spore drive. So I thought that was kind of unique.
It's very important because they're extremely vulnerable if their spore drive is reliant upon one person being alive or around him being healthy. What if he's on an away mission? What if he's missing or dead? Then okay, well, that was fun. It's all over.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something they needed to address on the show, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I just feel like they addressed it a little bit in the wrong way, and that's because Tilly's an ensign, but yet she has figured out a way to make the spore drive work in this very quantum, like the most futuristic way possible. And I'm like, well, that requires a high level of intelligence that doesn't match your ranking, right? So it's kind of that's a little bit weird to me too.
Right. Well, this show is nothing if not inclusive, and because I thought the same thing. Where Michael Burnham for a season was unlisted, or enlisted, where she didn't even hold rank, but they're basically letting her act like a commander some of the times or a captain some of the times, and she had no rank. And we've got Tilly, who's an ensign, and she's kind of walking around like she's a lieutenant. Because there was a moment where I was like, why is Captain Saru looking for advice from Ensign Tilly? I've never.
That would have never happened.
Did Captain Sisko ever say, "No, come in here. I need some advice. Can you?" And Nog puts his arm on Sisko's shoulder and just be like, you just need to be stronger and more confident, Captain.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nog. I appreciate that. I'll take that advice.
Exactly. It's like Kirk. If Kirk would have done that to Chekhov, oh yeah, come on, let's have you fix it. It doesn't seem right.
Yeah. No. But Discovery, like I said, they're more inclusive to where they're like, look, so it's an ensign or somebody with no rank. We listen to everybody. There's no class system. There's no elitism here. We're all friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just expected her to not. I mean, it was a really fully developed plan. It wasn't just like, "Hey, I have this idea. Maybe if we did it." It was more like, "No, I've done the math. I've done this. I've been researching this in my laboratory while you guys were sitting here."
Yeah, but while we're doing all this other stuff, she's been doing that. Okay.
Right. Well, Stamets did have that moment that kind of echoes how we're feeling, which is when he said, "Look, this isn't about yay, science is cool," or something like that. I was like, "Ooh, Stamets getting a little snippy with her," you know. And it would have been funny if Saru, she comes and says, "Saru, let me give you a piece of advice," and he was like, "Why don't you go back to watching your cartoons, Tilly? I'm a captain."
Exactly.
But it kind of goes back to what we discussed a week ago, which was it does feel like Saru is an island. He doesn't have much of a senior staff.
No.
Only senior staff he has is Michael Burnham, who isn't even 100% on board with being a commander right now anyway.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there isn't much of a senior staff. He has a medium staff.
Yeah.
I did notice, and this could be just, this could be inaccurate, but this was something I noticed and took a note of, was Lieutenant Nilsson, the blonde lady, Sarah Middich, who originally played Ariam, Lieutenant Commander Ariam. She, at one point, when we're following Dr. Culber walking through and checking on Bryce and Reese and the bridge crew, when he checked on Lieutenant Nilsson, it looked like she was sitting in the captain's chair, which means when Saru and Burnham are gone, and we're wondering who's that second officer, who's that next person, it's looking like it's Lieutenant Nilsson. In the first season, it was Lieutenant Commander Ariam. I did notice that when Lorca and Saru were gone, Lieutenant Commander Ariam was sitting in the captain's chair in those few moments. So, of course, it's played by the same actress, which is funny, but it's looking like Nilsson is that next in charge person, along with Lieutenant Non, or Lieutenant Commander Non. So at least we're getting an idea of who. I don't know. I just love that ranking stuff of like, well, if these guys are on an away mission, who's in charge of the ship?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so now, following that line, again, they have to find a way to get Michelle Yeoh's character,
Giorgio,
because she's like the oddball in the middle. Like, she doesn't take orders from everybody. She's not in the hierarchy of the but she's kind of like her own thing.
Yeah.
And it's weird because there was the scene where everybody's like, say what you said to get here, and everybody's like, I said I. And I never said I.
I'm here. I'm here.
I mean, something to that degree, and I was like, well,
right.
That's how I feel about you on this show. It's like you're not.
Not here.
You're like, it's funny you should say that, because that's how I feel about you too.
Yeah. She gets up from the table when everybody leaves, and she goes, well, at least the wine was good. And she takes the bottle. Okay, she takes the bottle when she leaves. So we know what she's doing. She's going back to her quarters and getting drunk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what I would say. If I were Captain Saru, following along with what you're saying, Cirroc, if I were Captain Saru, what would I do with Giorgio? I mean, she shouldn't hold any rank. She's never been through Starfleet Academy or any of that. But she can be valuable with her fighting skill. She also shows that she has no allegiance or listens to anything that Saru says, and it wants nothing to do with the Federation or Starfleet or its ideals or the crew. But she has a passing interest in the welfare of Michael Burnham. I would just say, okay, you're Michael Burnham's bodyguard. Michael, every mission you go on, take her with you. You handle the mission. She handles the bad guys. Yeah. And we don't have to worry about if she's going to kill us on the ship or make me look stupid on my own bridge or whatever. Yeah. You guys, Michael, take her everywhere you go, and we know you'll be taken care of, and everybody's happy.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? We did get to see Michael be a bit of a badass, though, in this, when she went after the Trill, and things like that. So sometimes I wonder if she just can't take care of herself. Because she really
she can. She definitely
down
people
quickly.
Up in every episode.
Oh yeah. She's taking care of herself. Yeah.
Yeah. They did a wonderful job with that. So I can see Giorgio. Giorgio just doesn't fit. I mean, she's not even from the same, same universe. Okay. I mean, wouldn't it be neat to take her back now and see what the mirror universe looks like at this point? If they could take her back and this far into the future, see what happens in that universe, maybe we'll get to see that at some point. That
Find out if the burn happened there.
Yeah, exactly. Or did things go a little bit differently? It would be kind of neat for them to actually take it there to see what's going on in the mirror universe. Maybe everything's fine there. Maybe they should all go there,
Yeah, if I'm Saru, I would send her on a mission that I knew she couldn't come back from.
There you go.
Say, hey, why don't you go over there and talk to those people?
That's right.
Hey, go talk to them for a while. We'll be right back for you. You wait here.
Yeah.
Take a shuttle, and we'll just not put quite enough fuel in it. Okay, just not enough fuel that you can just go float somewhere. Yeah.
And if I was looking at it from a writer's perspective, I would add something to the story where somebody in the crew is not supposed to be there. And it would be Giorgio's job to be like the investigative.
Good one. Yeah.
Use her spy skills, her cunningness to try to Sherlock Holmes who's not supposed to be there. Maybe a change link is there. Maybe somebody is not who we expect them to be. And then let her be like the resident detective at that point, maybe constable type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe she should be chief of security.
And
she should be chief of security.
And the way you would put it, you'd be like, Giorgio, make yourself useful. There is a person, and go from there. And then it would be up to her to decide if she wants to do it or not.
Put your wine down and become useful. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Otherwise she stands out as like not having something to do. She looks like the third wheel on a date or something. So it's kind of
absolutely
weird.
She does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And she's always undermining the captain, and you don't even know where her allegiances lie. I mean, I'd be a little worried. Yeah.
She's definitely worried about herself, and that's it. She's definitely worried about herself, and that's it. Now the rest of the crew.
So then you can forge an adventure for her to go on independently.
Yeah.
She's now sent the mission to find the other Federation ship, or something to that. Something like that. Some mission that she's now on, because at this point, it seems like she has no real chemistry with anybody.
No.
On the ship, she doesn't really like anybody. She doesn't want to like anybody. I think her and Burnham have the most chemistry.
Yep.
But then you're like writing Burnham into a box with her every time if you force that too much.
I would agree. Absolutely agree. Just get her out of there. Get her out.
So
if you're not going to find somewhere, then get her out.
We only have a few minutes left here. Let's talk very quickly about the Trill Homeworld. We did get to see the lady in charge. I don't remember her name. I had it written down somewhere. We also had Commissioner G, I believe, was the gentleman. Commissioner Voss. And Guardian G.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the things they showed in this was how the symbiont ended up in Adira to begin with, and that was because Gray was dying from a shard of glass or something that was killing him. So
sometimes I got a shard of glass. No, you don't know. That's a Blondie, 1980.
Yeah,
right?
Deborah.
Shard of glass.
Yeah.
Anyway, please, sorry. We'll edit that out.
No.
Yeah, please.
We knew it was going to happen at some point. We expected.
So yeah, I mean, so they had the robots do the surgery.
Yeah, Wally.
Yeah,
Wally.
the Wally robot.
Wally.
And my question was basically, number one, I thought that the Trill had to go through a procedure of inspection and criteria to be made into a Trill. Like, you can't just be. The host has to go through a whole qualifying set of procedures, and that was one of the things they dealt with in the Equilibrium episode. Was, what Jadzia Dax had to do just to get through the process, and that was a real grueling process. So one thing for me, I was like, well, how could they just transfer it over to her that easily without, seeing if the host is a match?
Well, that's why they're so incompatible right now, is because it's a human instead of a Trill, and because Adira hasn't gone through any of these processes. So, yeah, that's why it is an imperfect match. That's also why the elders on Trill were like, harumph to this. This is against everything we believe in. We don't even, you're hurting the Trill. You're damaging it. You're desecrating it probably in some ways. So, yeah, I mean, that is a major concern for them. But they ended up finally saying, okay, well, I guess we'll allow it because it looks like the symbiont attached to the host, and they finally made that connection when she said all of the previous host names. That's when they knew she's got all the memories and the transition has worked and she is finally compatible. But yeah, Cirroc, you're right. That was the major problem they had with it.
Their world's in trouble too. They state that we're in trouble with the whole situation, the whole Trill society, Trill as a whole. They're in trouble. So at some point they had to accept her. Even though when she first went down there, you're absolutely right. I think that, it was done in a rush, and that's why she had no memories. The symbiote was basically she was just the vessel for the symbiote to stay alive. And I think that's why she didn't have any memories, because the other part of it that was done prior in the process didn't get done. It was just that hurried up through the symbiote in her body, and they were done. And so the rest of it that really causes the full attachment didn't happen, and so basically just a vessel at that point, that's why she had no memories. So that's what I'm thinking, but they didn't. Go ahead.
No, and so I wanted to add to that. The other thing that I had a slight issue with was when Adira first came on the show in the last episode, right? I think that was her first appearance.
Right.
She had a big kind of meeting of the minds chess game with Stamets. Wasn't that like he was like, "What did you touch? You touched my thing. You altered the computers. You did something," and so at that point, she came across to me as the know-it-all genius character.
Yeah.
And then it seems like she's now reverted to not the know-it-all genius character all of a sudden. It's a little bit less of that. So I want to know why that transition is happening.
Interesting. I think it's because you're right. That was the first impression we got, that she's some young genius that knows everything for whatever reason. Now, the reason she doesn't know everything in this next episode with her is because this is not something that she learned in a history book. This is a mystery that is actually within her own body. So she may know everything about warp cores and about science and about all these things that she studied, but she also has this slug inside of her that is not fully connecting, and nobody on Earth can help her necessarily with it because nobody has any experience with it. So she's like a genius in this one realm, but in this other realm, you're right, she's a newbie. She has no idea what's going on. She's like, I got this thing in me. I gained 21 pounds in one day. That's all I know. That's the extent of my knowledge right now.
Yeah.
I will say, quick shout out here, but I was actually really impressed with her acting. I thought that her reactions, her delivery were really good. She seems like a young actress. So anytime somebody's pretty young, you kind of brace yourself for potentially not great acting. But I thought she was just fine. She was very good.
I would agree. I would agree.
I did have another question, and that was about this Gray character, because it was kind of unclear to me whether Gray is alive or a ghost, or like
that was her memory. I think what they're doing was just showing. You've never watched Star Wars, Cirroc?
No, I did.
A little bit of Jedi Knight stuff going on there.
But Grace says something like, "Oh, when are you going to tell her? When are you going to tell them about me?" And then she says, "I didn't think they would understand." And to me, that was like, yeah.
I think that's just a prelude to more information coming out about Gray to the rest of them. Right now, she hasn't told Gray the story, or she hasn't told anybody the story of Gray. Michael knows because she saw it, but nobody else knows. And there's probably more to it that we don't know as the audience either. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of Gray just kind of popping in as like her conscience, her memories, somebody that she talks to. And because Gray basically lives inside of her now, Gray Tall. But we are just about out of time here. We do want to point out very quickly that it is Movember.
Yes.
Our good friend, Mr. Bill Erickson, has a Movember, usmovember.com at MoSpace. We'll include the link below. Please donate to that. It's very important. As you all know, Movember is one of the big, important moments of every year. So please check that out. We will include that in the description box of this video. It's to help with men's health, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health, and suicide prevention. The latter of which is actually very important, as those rates are also going up very much during this pandemic. So please check that out. That's our good friend, Mr. Bill Erickson. Any final thoughts, guys, before we run?
No, support Bill Erickson in the Movember movement.
That's absolutely
Movember movement.
Yeah,
that sucked too. All right. Thank you all very much. Please check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/the7th-rule. Please subscribe, like this video, comment, share it with your friends. Think about us while you nap. And we'll see you next time. Until then, always remember the 7th rule.